Thanks for tuning in to Metabolism or Boost Your Metabolism Part 2. In Part 1, we discussed some real basic components to why folks have a hard time boosting their metabolism, what happens. Certainly it wasn't all inclusive. I didn't talk about the role of hormones. I didn't talk about the role of, just as we age, as we hit middle age, how metabolically we naturally go on to a little bit of a descent as our hormones change, whether you're male or female. For a guy, our testosterone levels drop, the ability to maintain anabolism becomes compromised, DHEA levels unfortunately drop. With women, their estrogen levels and their testosterone levels begin to shift. That makes us less metabolically efficient, less anabolically sound to maintain lean muscle mass. As that happens, it is so much easier then to gain weight, unfortunately. But are there things that you can do to boost your metabolism? We'll talk a little more specifically today about foods, but I'm going to go right back and do a quick review. Don't starve yourself. When you do that, you force a conversion process in the thyroid to a neutral thyroid hormone, which is called reverse T3, which is a way for your body to conserve energy. That is literally going to happen, can happen to folks for multiple reasons, but one of the main ways that happens is starvation diets, dramatic swings, very, very, very extreme dietary changes, huge restrictions. Not the way to do it. Reducing just calorie count is not necessarily the way to do it. We have to understand the quality of the foods that we consume. Are foods more metabolically active? Do they encourage a better burn rate? Or do they, what we said in the previous teaching, do they add? I want them to go into a negative and a deficit. Maybe I'll explain a little bit more about that. I discussed that in the previous video. Also about physical activity. We're talking about making sure that you understand the role that it's not just about burning calories and going to the gym or getting on a treadmill. The important part of this is to understand that what you really need to do is to build lean muscle mass. When I build muscle mass, what I do is I make myself more metabolically active. For example, I know the exact numbers, but fat, a pound of fat probably burns no more than 3 or 4 or maybe 5 calories a day. 1 pound of muscle, which is metabolically active, fat is not metabolically active, muscle will burn somewhere in the neighborhood of approximately 50 calories per day. That's a big swing. So just do the math. If I carry 10 additional pounds of fat that should have been 10 additional pounds of muscle, there is a huge swing in metabolic activity there taking place. So I must do resistance training, maybe interval training and exercise that help to build lean muscle mass, because as I build the muscle mass, I will improve my burn and my metabolic burn. The other part that we must understand is the role of hydration. We have to drink more fluids. As I drink more water, in particular, the key is water, I will make sure that I get adequate glucose and sugar to the brain. Why is that important? Because for a lot of folks, we have signals and we receive signals that I'm still hungry. And there is legitimate literature that shows that it's not necessarily a starvation issue, it's not necessarily a hunger issue, it's not necessarily that I'm actually requiring more nutrients and more calories, more food. It is that I'm not carrying enough nutrients to the brain. A decrease in hydration of fluid and of water decreases or diminishes glucose metabolism. Your brain, gram per gram, uses more calories and burns more energy than any organ in the body. The brain uses a tremendous amount of energy. Must hydrate, must make sure we have adequate water so that we help to encourage energy production. The other area that I want to talk to you about today are foods that can boost your immune system. And there are foods that can do that. I made a list of a few. Certainly, first of all, we need to have adequate protein on board. I'm not an all-protein guy, but I cannot have a diet that is front-loaded with a ton of carbohydrates and expect to boost my metabolism. I have to have protein at each meal. spread out through the course of the day. It helps to make us more metabolically active by encouraging, first of all, repair mechanisms, slowing glycemic loads and rises. Big issue. Lots of fiber in your diet. A lot of fibrous containing foods slow down the glycemic rise, which will then cause insulin to be reduced or insulin to be moderated more efficiently. When I do that, I discourage adipose tissue deposition. I discourage fat being deposited on my body. So high fiber foods, adequate protein, complex carbohydrates are really critical. Carbohydrates, for example, potatoes and corn and rice are higher, especially corn and potatoes are higher glycemic load foods. We want to make sure that we have foodstuffs and vegetables that have a lot of fiber in them. Those do not. We need more fiber so that it slows the glycemic rise. But let's talk about foods that encourage metabolic burn, if you will, that are metabolically boosting types of components. Curry is a food. We've heard of curry, curcumin, the spice used especially in the Middle East, a wonderful agent to encourage metabolic burn. Cinnamon can help you by helping with blood sugar control. Believe it or not, cayenne increases metabolic rate. So capsaicin, hot foods will help you to burn more efficiently. Apples can work through pectin at reducing fat's ability to absorb more fat, the cells to absorb more fat. We also know that celery can be helpful in this area. Beans and legumes are interesting because the way your body processes them, the amount of fiber, the amount of protein will help you to be more metabolically active. Broccoli, cabbage. Cabbage is interesting. Cabbage has some interesting, you see some folks doing the cabbage diet. What cabbage does is it helps to slow down the conversion of sugars, of carbohydrates into sugars. So it slows down that conversion, which could help you in weight loss programs, fat burning types of activities, or metabolic boosting, which we're after here today. Almonds are very helpful. Raw nuts, in particular almonds, because the ratio of fat and so on. Berries can be helpful. A lot of these foods cause a net negative effect on your body. In other words, it takes more energy to burn and utilize them. Hence, you'll take and burn more fat eventually through the course of a day, as opposed to foods that, boom, spike your blood sugar, go right in, easy to metabolize, and quickly. So they're in the plus category. We don't want foods that are in a plus category. Cayenne, hot peppers, capsaicin, cinnamon, curry, broccoli, cabbage, almonds, beans, berries, all very helpful. Adequate sleep is key. Like the 7-7 rule. Don't eat much after 7 at night, and try to make sure that you get at least 7 hours of sleep. The 7-7 rule can be very, very helpful. Green tea has been documented to be thermogenic. There are some studies that show folks that are put on green tea extracts, standardized catechins, don't change their diet. Another group, just keep doing what you're doing. Those that are on the green tea extracts over the span of 3 months can lose 3 to 4 pounds on average. Green tea is a thermogenic food. We've talked about the role of omega oils in the previous metabolic boosting teaching that we did in part 1. Know that omega oils will decrease insulin resistance, increase your ability to burn fats as well. I think I've covered all the ones I wanted to cover. Interesting issues with apples to be helpful, cabbage to be helpful, green tea extracts, lentils, beans, legumes. All of these can absolutely help you. Vitamin C, don't forget this. Buffered vitamin C can be helpful. I forgot this. It helps to recycle and keep alpha-lipoic acid in your system, which will improve your insulin and sugar hookup. It also helps to keep carnitine, which is a fat burner, more active in your system. Vitamin C can be a key player. Buffered vitamin C ascorbates. Go to our website at lenandjoe.com. Thanks for tuning in. Tune into our next teaching series.